Welcome back to another episode of Cape Ann Today. I am speaking today with Charles Nazarian, who is the Executive Director of the Gloucester Meetinghouse Foundation, and Peter Krasinski, who is a conductor, organist, music educator, and he specializes in accompanying silent movies. And that is a clue to a very special event that is happening next weekend, Halloween weekend, in collaboration with the Cape Ann Community Cinema. Hi, Charles and Peter.
Hello.
Hello, Heather.
Thanks for joining me. So, Charles, I want to start right now asking you about the Gloucester Meetinghouse Foundation. What is it? What's its mission?
Well, the Gloucester Meetinghouse Foundation was formed, modeled after the Old North Foundation that takes care of Boston's Old North Church. And it's a nonprofit that's separate from the church. And its mission is to preserve the 1806 Meeting House, which is the building of the first Universalist church in America, as a civic hub, as a concert venue, and as a community center. And to date, we have made it accessible for people with disabilities. We've made the building much safer against fire with a fire sprinkler system and a state-of-the-art detection system. And the tower, which you can see behind me, was just restored last year from top to bottom. And it's been an icon on the Gloucester skyline since 1806, when the building was constructed and served as a lighthouse, and still does, for people coming into the harbor. If you follow the tower into the harbor in a boat, you will come safely to the inner harbor, where you can then go and moor your boat someplace without hitting the rocks.
And I understand there's a very special bell in that belfry also.
There is a Paul Revere bell, also from 1806. We ring it frequently for special occasions. Sometimes for sad occasions, we'll toll the bell. It all depends, but it's a beautiful sound, very rich sound that carries all over the harbor.
Well, so let's talk about next weekend. Tell us about this really interesting collaboration, and it involves an organ and the silent movies and maybe a little Halloween.
Well, I'll start and then I'll hand over to Peter. I have lost count of how many times Peter has come to play for us, but every one of them has been a magnificent occasion. And we've made an annual event around Halloween of Peter coming and accompanying very special silent movies. And this Saturday, the 28th of October, Peter is going to accompany two classics. One is The Haunted House with Buster Keaton, and the other one is the famous Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney. And Peter's going to open the program by playing the equally famous Bach Prelude and Fugue in D minor. He is going to be playing on our 1893 George Hutchings organ, which has a beautiful, deep, sonorous tone and lots of beautiful colors, tone colors that work well in accompanying the movies. But I will hand over to Peter to tell you a little bit more about how he does this magic.
Great. Well, Charles, it's great to come back. I always love not only the organ and the building, but mainly the people that come and enjoy these events. It's always great to get the reactions and feel the energy in the room when I get a chance to play that magnificent organ. The thing that makes your venue particularly special is its connection with the C.B. Fisk Organ Company, also the connection with the original builder of the organ. It's a wonderful, I think it's a wonderful example of progress. You know, you've got an instrument that was built by one person, then it was restored lovingly by another person, but it still retained its beauty. And it's a lot like what you're doing right now. So hats off to you for a wonderful job that you do for Gloucester and for the community. And I'm just lucky enough to be a little part of that programming. Basically what I do is it's somewhat unique in the silent movie world. There's a lot of ways one can accompany a silent film. You can actually look for the original music that might have been written. You can try to recreate it historically. I'm very fortunate in that I've been gifted with a pretty cool ability to improvise. And so it gets to the point now where I'm just looking at the film, and literally every time I play this film, I feel something different from the organ, the venue, and the people that makes it always a unique event. It's really strange because the film itself is always the same, but it's also like when you go to a play and you say, gee whiz, you've done this play 7 times this week, you must get really bored. And all the good actors will just say, oh no, every night it's different. How could it be different? It's Shakespeare. It's been, it's done forever. But that's that kind of feeling that happens. And audiences do come and do enjoy that spontaneity that's there. Basically, the 2 films, they're fabulous films. And they have this weird little connection with Faust, the story and the opera of Faust, because the first one is a comedy. The haunted house ends up being really sort of a cover for a ring of counterfeiters. And the counterfeiters have turned it into a haunted house so people will stay away from it. And Buster Keaton, who's works for a bank, sort of stumbles upon this reality. And one of the things that happens in town is that they're doing a production of Faust very badly. And the set falls apart and the opera singer can't sing and people start throwing vegetables at them. And the cast ends up becoming intertwined in the story. And it's quite amusing. It's also great that we're doing it first, because that means almost first. That means that kids, real young kids, absolutely encouraged to come. Oh, my kid will be too noisy. Super. We want that reaction. We want that fun to happen. We want the kids to really just be a part of the event. And then the second film is the very serious, I've got my little friend here, Lon Chaney in the role of Phantom of the Opera. It's an incredible story, and it includes so many different levels about humanity. There's Christina, who's trying to figure out, how am I going to navigate a love affair, also a career, and this phantom that's helping me further my career. Do I want a personal life or do I want a public life? She's a really important character in this film. It's not just a bunch of guys running around. It's really cool that the woman's role, for me, is almost central to telling this whole story about the phantom. And you kind of have to come see it to hear the rest of the story. But I know that most of you probably already know the story of the phantom. And again, in the Phantom of the Opera movie, guess what shows up again? The opera Faust by Gounod. And that's one of the things in the movie that I don't improvise. I actually play the music from the opera. Mm-hmm. So when there's a ballet scene, I try to match the rhythm of the ballerinas to exactly what they would be dancing to. And when Carlotta sings, that's the rival singer, I actually put in some wrong notes because the phantom doesn't like the way she sings. So I make her sing sour. And people have come up to me, musicians have come up to me and said, oh, Peter, it's too bad you didn't know how to play that piece. So well, thank you for helping me out with that. Anyway, so I'm really looking forward to being a part of the whole thing. It's going to be a fun event. And of course, it begins with the famous toccata and fugue in D minor by Bach. It's just it has to happen, and we always do that a little bit differently every year too.
So I have one last question. What is the relationship of the organ with silent movies? Is that an instrument that was traditionally accompanied the silent movies?
It is, in America especially. It actually was a confluence of a lot of different things that all seemed to happen at the same time. There was an organ builder in England called Robert Hope Jones that had this idea of creating an organ that would be like an orchestra, a one-man orchestra, a little different than the organ that we'll be playing for this event, but nonetheless an organ. There was a company called Wurlitzer that hired him to come and create instruments. And at the very same time, the movie industry was really taking off with all these movies. And these very medium-sized to big-sized houses would actually hire musicians. And yes, there were scores written for quite a few of these movies as well. Most of them weren't very good, I'm afraid. Most of them were actually drawn from other music, from other composers. And they kind of jammed them in there and they claimed, I wrote this. No, I'm hearing Bizet. Nope, now I'm hearing Chopin. Now I'm hearing Mozart. So for me, that's another thing I try to avoid. I actually try to become invisible and not be noticed after I play the organ first, of course. I like being noticed then. But for the movie, I want to have it be interactive. So what happened was all these orchestras were really costing a lot of money. And so theater organs in America said, well, we can spend quite a bit of money on a Wurlitzer and bring it in, or another theater organ, and have one person to pay to play the movies. And in fact, organists are one of the reasons that music unions started. Because the music unions were getting upset at the theaters because, well, we're playing too long, this movie's too long. And then they'd say, well, we'll have the organist play for a little bit of that. And then there was this little tension between organs and organists and orchestras too. So it's a wonderful, wonderful history. I have many colleagues that also do this. And what's wonderful about us is we all enjoy each other. We all enjoy what we do because there's no competition. One person will do it on a piano, another person will do it on a keyboard, some person will do it historically. And we all have our own little niche. So it's a fun world out there.
The silent movie world.
The silent movie world. We like to call them photoplays because that's what they were originally called. And they were never silent. They always had some sort of sound. Yeah. In fact, the first person to be hired to write a film score was actually Saint-Saëns, the Camille Saint-Saëns, the Parisian composer, the Parisian, theme. He wrote a film, I think it was Don Juan was the name of the film. And he was the first person to actually officially write a score for a film. So it goes way back to some really cool people.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, Charles, we have to return to you, so you can give us the details of this event, the time, the place, tickets.
Okay, well, it occurs at the Meeting House, which is the home of the Gloucester Unitarian Universalist Church. If you're using GPS, it's 50 Middle Street, and the steeple and the building itself is unmistakable, but it sits back from Middle Street by almost a football field's worth of a beautiful green. So it's at the corner of Church Street and Middle Street. If you need a lift, however, if you have difficulty with stairs, there's a side door at number 10 Church Street, and you just come in the door and turn around to the right and take the elevator. The rest of it's pretty obvious. The event is at 7:30, but we encourage people to get there a little bit early because Peter draws a crowd. And we also encourage people to wear costumes, especially costumes that might relate to either one of the movies, which would be extremely cool. So we'd love to encourage people to do that, but they don't need to do that. So, I think the program, Peter, is about an hour and a half total. And the whole idea is to bring the kids, bring the family, bring the neighbors, come and just for a little while go back in time and listen to this music and these old films. They are absolutely so charming. You just can't imagine how wonderful these films are, made so long ago. And Peter is right. He actually, at the beginning, everybody concentrates on him. But once the movie gets going, you kind of almost forget that he's alive playing back there. And you just take in the whole experience, which is absolutely amazing. And then, of course, he comes out at the end and we all scream and yell and give him a standing ovation because he's always so fantastic. And we're very lucky to have him. He goes all around the world doing this, not just in the US. So He's an international sonic artist, and we're lucky to have him near Halloween.
Yeah, I missed that intro and say that again, a sonic artist?
Sonic artist, yes. Yeah, he's beyond just being an organist or accompanist. He is really a sonic artist, yes.
All right. Well, if people want to know more about the Gloucester Meetinghouse Foundation, Charles, where can they go?
They can go to our website, which is just like our name, www.gloucestermeetinghouse.org.
All right.
And
great.
there's lots of information there. You can buy tickets there ahead of time. They're $15 for adults and $5 for students, and under 12 are free. So come fill the place up and we'll have a blast.
All right, Peter, I hope to see you and you also, Charles, on Saturday night, and I really look forward to it. So thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Heather.
Really great meeting you, Heather. I look forward to seeing you. Don't be afraid. Come up and say hi afterwards.
I want you to sign my book as a sonic artist. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Will do.
Right. Thank you. Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.